Welcome to Burn the Ship. It's a podcast where we help entrepreneurs and professionals connect together to go all in on their business, man. And I'm not going to take your thunder, so if you want to introduce yourself, tell the people who you are and what you do.
Seth Watson, the owner and founder of Distillery of Modern Art here in Atlanta, Georgia.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I kind of want to start kind of by telling the people a story, modern art and kind of where you started in your professional world. What happened when you turned 18, or right when you left college at 22, 23. What's kind of been your path to getting to where you are now?
So I went to University of Florida, and as soon as I graduated, I had some friends in the Atlanta area, and it was the next big city, and I wanted nothing more than to leave the state of Florida and get to the next decent city.
Okay.
I had been sold on Southern hospitality, which I do believe is a real thing.
Absolutely.
Atlanta seemed like a growing city with just a lot of opportunity.
Okay.
And so I found school sort of a means to an end. I just desperately wanted to work. I just wanted to be able to get out there and make money. So went to school for business, left Gainesville, moved to Atlanta, took a normal 9 to 5 for about maybe 6 months before I realized I do not want to have a boss.
Yeah.
It was one of those situations where answering to somebody else and seeing what they were doing wrong and not being able to quickly make those changes
Yeah.
to for the better got under my skin quick.
Okay.
So I like to think of myself as as somebody who can size up a situation and adjust to make things better. So I'm always looking to improve processes, cut down on time, be more efficient. That's how I spend my life, and that's what I was very interested in from a young age regarding business.
Okay.
I figured if it's mine, I'm in. I'll figure it out.
No, I love that, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. When you're saying you wanted to get out of school as fast as possible. I just graduated in May. I went to the University of West Georgia. I played baseball. I'm a collegiate athlete. So, the only reason I didn't want to leave school was the sports. But other than that, I wanted to get in the work field immediately. So it was a super, it was a taxing thing, especially after COVID happened, and I knew I could get my 5th year. I was like, that's going to be a tough thing. So people can definitely relate to that, and especially being in the 9 to 5 world. On top of that, being on a 9 to 5 job, people want to control their own lives, and a lot of people want to be entrepreneurs, but they're scared to jump off and do what you just did. So kind of what was it? What made you take that leap? I understand that you had that feeling, but what kind of pushed you?
So I had seen when I was in college and in high school, I was doing working for entertainment companies, emceeing events, even got some DJ working for a while.
Okay.
And I saw that there was a lot of money. And at the time, at 20, 21 years of age, I said, I can get paid to party. I bet I can make this work for myself. So I had a buddy I knew. I had helped him build an AM radio station in the North Georgia mountains. He said, "Hey, look, man, I've got, a couple events coming up. I could use some help. Can you MC with me?" He was a DJ. I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." So working during the week, my weekend started, club gigs, college parties, some small weddings, things like that, where it was a DJ setup, me on a microphone, some real simple lighting. And I saw that there was a lot of money involved. A night I can be pulling off $100 an hour doing next to nothing on
Having
top
fun.
of making my 9 to 5 salary. Plus, it'd be fun. Great way to meet people, be out in the world. And so I started getting a lot of people asking about those services. And so the buddy and I at the time said, why don't we see if we can make this work? Let's just offer MC and DJ services out to the world, see what picks up.
Mm-hmm.
So after about the first year, we may have done maybe 15 events, give or take. And we saw that there was some good potential. So I was thinking, I don't really know how to run a business. Maybe I go back to school for an MBA. We'll build this up a little bit. If he can go out and sell, I want to be a operator. Let me figure out how to make the business side work. So we started picking up clients. People would ask for more and more items. We were, classic entrepreneur story. We were working out of his dad's garage.
Okay.
We had a single pickup truck, and we had 2 sets of speakers, 2 DJ rigs, some small lighting. This was before all the good LED lights started to come out, and it started to pick up. People wanted more stuff. Can you do furniture? Can you do bigger lighting rigs? So simple enough, we'd rent them, throw 20% on top of it, start to just build that business. Fast forward, by the time I sold that business in 2017, we were doing about 450 events a year. We had 20,000 square feet of toys so we were doing lighting, staging, sound, decor, prop fabrication, set design, furniture building, and entertainment.
That's awesome.
So we just kept going and going and going. The business just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger organically. During that time period, I went back to school to get an MBA. Just, I didn't do it for the paper. I did it for the education because I knew that I needed to know what I didn't know. And you can only study books so much and be in the real world, but you need somebody to educate you.
1,000,000%.
Plenty of on the job learning, but you need to be able to get after it.
Mm-hmm.
So we were employing a couple hundred people and doing 10 events a night. I mean, it was just like, it was to the wall of nonsense, of craziness. So anything from a 200-person event all the way up to the Chick-fil-A Bowl, we did everything in between. So a couple hundred to tens of thousands of people, all in different style of events. So we got to be creative.
Okay.
My day was different every single day. People I dealt with were always different, and we just loved being in the creative world.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an artist, but I definitely am creative, and the ability to take someone's vision and make that a reality. For nearly 20 years, that's what I was doing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That is that's an interesting niche, especially that creator space. So I star on another YouTube channel as well, but the creators, the people that produce that stuff, it's insane how intricate those little niches are in your brain, to be able to do those things. Because I surely can't do that. Like, I'm not somebody that's going to be like an operator's manager. Like, I definitely get out and do some sales, but not going to be able to be in the operations. That takes a special person and a special drive, and I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, because there's a lot of people in that niche, and a lot of people are super successful, and then especially if you have the drive, and it sounds like you had it since a young age. You've been a go-getter, and people can appreciate that. So kind of what happens, how did you wind up here in Atlanta now once you sold off your company? Kind of what are you doing currently, and what is your venture? What is your expectations, and kind of where'd you start?
So around my freshman year of college, honestly, I can give you a quick story. I was in a college bar, maybe just before drinking age or just after legal drinking age, just drinking beers like everybody else, just putting
1,000%.
down a bunch of beer, feeling full, constantly in the bathroom, which was really just an obnoxious place to be. Single stall bathroom in a men's place in college, and just spent so much time waiting for a bathroom.
Okay.
Not a glorious story, but so what I thought to myself very early on was, I need to get past beer. I'm going to start getting into spirits. I want to be able to drink way less, get the same effect, not feel heavy, not feel gross about it. And the spirits world seemed pretty interesting to me. So that was in the late 90s, early 2000, where craft spirits were not giant. There was maybe less than 1,000 craft distilleries throughout the country. People just didn't really look for them. You had to be in certain markets. Obviously, a place like Kentucky had a great amount of spirits going on. So I got into whiskey very early.
Okay.
And just kept trying to find more and more and more different types of whiskey. And what I found was all of the big boys, they all tasted the same. There was nothing very interesting about them. The craft spirits that I could get my hands on were just wildly different. And as I started to make money and grow up as a human in general, all of the whiskey that I couldn't afford previously, I started to be able to afford. But at that same time, that same whiskey started to go way more expensive. Over and over again, a price that it should have been 20, 30 bucks was up in the 40, 50, 60. Nowadays, you're talking about triple that.
Absolutely.
Which was obnoxious. So I just continued a passion for good spirits throughout my adulthood. And in 2017, when I was getting ready to sell the other business, I thought, what's next? What I knew about the state of Georgia is that there were very few distilleries. I didn't know why. I didn't know why we weren't making more whiskey here. I didn't get it. So at that same time, I started to just learn the law of the state, hired a lawyer just to pique my interest of what the alcohol laws were from a manufacturing standpoint in the state, and realized what I wanted to do, if I could, was figure out a way to make whiskey and have an event space, because I knew the events world. So I was going to marry passion with expertise. And that's a winning combination. If you can take something with something you love and marry them.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of the bigger story of how this distillery came about. I started on a journey for nearly 5 years of traveling across the country, knocking on doors of any possible craft distillery that would let me in, learn how to distill, learn the operation side, learn everything I could, just soak it all in. And I visited probably about 70 different facilities over the years. And then COVID hit, which wasn't great. But right at the beginning, I had already hired lawyers, accountants, and a architect to try to figure out, hey, if I were to do this in Atlanta, how and why? What can I actually build? What's it going to cost me? So I didn't know. So I was able to hire a consultant in the spirits world through a company called Thoroughbred Spirits, which help every sort of level of people coming into the industry, whether it's just distillery design, bottle design, liquid production, whatever it was in that ethos, they could handhold you. So I needed them to understand um, financial modeling because I didn't know if I could afford it or not. My goal was event space and whiskey.
Yeah.
Now I realized that whiskey takes years to mature. So what do you do when you've put all this money into these barrels of whiskey that you've made? You got to recoup somehow. So I tried to figure out, can I put on enough events in my facility to pay for all of that whiskey? And the answer really quickly was no. There's only a finite amount of days in a week. There's only so many weeks in a year. There's only so many nights that events take place. So we had to start thinking more creatively. What other spirits could we introduce that don't require barreling and maturing? And so we started talking about my next favorite spirit, which is gin, and then vodkas, and then I was interested in making herbal liqueurs. And so we basically settled on about 7 different spirits. So we decided on 2 vodkas, one just being a straight vodka, one being a peach flavored vodka to pay homage to the state of Georgia,
Love that.
a gin, and then corn whiskey because I just find it delicious, bourbon, rye, and then an herbal liqueur and amaro. We make it a peach amaro,
Okay.
which is just this beautiful balance of bitter and sweet. It's a really excellent digestive, like an after dinner drink.
I'm gonna have to come check you guys out.
You sure should. So at that point, I had located a building in Chambly, which is just north of Buckhead and Brookhaven. Found a space that was about 15,000 square feet. Was able to make a deal with the owner of the building at the time to purchase the building, and then brought on GCs, brought my architects back, started trying to design. As that was going on, I had to figure out the brand.
Okay.
And for me, what I did not want to do in any business I've ever been involved in, the last thing I want to do is come up with a marketed story, some sort of fake story to sell whatever it is I'm selling.
Some sob
I needed
story,
it to be
something.
authentic.
Absolutely.
And knowing how much marketing goes into the spirits world, I mean, it's probably more than 50% of the market is marketing. It could be a terrible drink, it could be a terrible spirit, but if it's marketed well, people think they're supposed to like it.
Absolutely. Bush Light Peach.
And that didn't resonate with me. And so what I wanted to do there, I thought, okay, what I really care about is stepping away from the prohibition, pre-prohibition, the idea that old means great.
Mm-hmm.
Some story of a 200-year-old recipe being discovered in their grandpappy's backyard, or some 5th generation distiller, turning the lights back on a still that have been off for 65 years. That's not me at all. And so I wanted to make sure that it was authentic. I was desperate to make something more high end than sort of the experience you get when you go into most distilleries. Is the focus is solely on production, not about the customer experience. And being somebody who had been creating experiences for nearly 20 years of my life, I knew that the customer focus meant as much as everything else. It needed to function perfectly to do what we need to do, but it could also look good.
Absolutely.
And so I really was focused on a modern take on that. I didn't want to deal with old meaning good, none of that. And then I wanted to think through my background. So for about a year, I was doing a lot of blind taste tests with people, specifically with whiskey. So I'd line up 10 bottles ranging from, $20 bottles all the way up to a $1,000 bottle of bourbon or rye. And the goal there was to see, if you strip the marketing away, how do these actual spirits place when somebody is rating them? And after so many different sessions with people, I found that never did they choose the more expensive whiskeys. They always chose the sort of the middle of the road brands, for what it's worth, with a better price point. Mm-hmm. So I knew right then and there 2 things. One, marketing says way too much about a brand. People who drink really expensive whiskey and it's not actually good, they think something's wrong with them as a consumer, because they don't know why they don't like it, so they just assume it's good and it's them who's in the wrong.
Exactly.
And that got on my nerves, because I think spirits should be approachable, they should be affordable. No one should tell you how you should or shouldn't drink your spirit. And so in my head, I kept hearing seek more, seek more. My understanding of consumers now is that they do seek more from their brands. Okay. They want to know how things were made. They don't want some convoluted story about how it got to them. And what I really saw was how subjective spirits were. And so when I was thinking design, branding, everything else, I wanted to take the modern feel, the artistic approach I've taken to everything I've done in my life, and then combine all those things. So I love modern art. I love modern as a thing. And I was putting on the same level of art being super subjective and spirits being super subjective. You may see a painting and say, oh, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. Guy next to you may not get it. You may try our gin and think it's the best gin you've ever had, and he may not get it. So the subjectivity was like that commonality that I found between art and spirit. Because when you make alcohol, especially let's just use whiskey again, if you're using 3 of 4 grains, it's the same as anybody else who's making whiskey. But your choice of grain, how you distill, it's part art, part science.
1000%.
And those
Yeah.
those two things combined, just it fell in my lap. The idea of this modern art aesthetic combination of art and spirit put under one roof.
Yeah.
And so that gave me a roadmap of how to lean in and how we designed our labels, the building, the spirits, the activities we have on site. Everything just started to blend together of this subjectivity of spirit and art.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and if you'd love to, I'd love to have you email me a label so I could put it out here on the podcast whenever I put it out. That'd be awesome. I'll throw it in at the beginning of it, a little trailer. But no, that is insane though. Like especially given that experience, especially you come from that experience place, but the experience of pulling music and thinking that deep into your brand. People can appreciate that you're going from music to gin. That's they go together, but they don't go together. Some people say they don't. Some people say they do. A little music and a little whiskey always goes well together on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night for sure. But even thinking that abstract to think that that gives people that aspect they can even talk about, because controversy creates conversation, and
Absolutely.
conversation creates friendship, or it creates people go their separate ways, but that's how some type of something common or uncommon is what's going to bring somebody together. And that is I really do like the point of view that you guys had. Do you have a business partner that helped you create that, or was that that was your
I'm all alone on this one. I think I learned a lesson, and I would actually, to any entrepreneur out in the world, while forget friends in business in general, unless you have such a good roadmap as to who's responsible for what, I would never be 50-50 partners with anybody ever again. Somebody needs to be in control. And so when I took my last business, I was a 50-50 partner. It ended poorly for us. He was a sales guy. I was an operator. Things just got a little out of control at a certain point. But now I decided to try to go at it alone in one of the most capital intensive businesses that you could possibly choose. And it is hard. I'm not saying don't have partners. I'm saying somebody needs to be in charge.
Absolutely.
So even if you're 51% with somebody, that's a better scenario than a 50-50, because nothing is ever equitable in that scenario.
Okay.
Not that it can't be, but if you're talking about new entrepreneurs or somebody who has not learned this lesson the hard way, I would always suggest maintain control. And the business I'm in, I have investors, but I don't have any partners because I just want to be in charge, and the buck has to stop with one person versus saying, oh, well, he's going to do it, or no, he's going to do it. Okay. I found the challenges in personality in most situations. And we had a great operating agreement. Everything was well documented. It didn't matter. It still produced challenges and trouble. So when somebody's actually in charge, I think you have better control of moving things forward.
Absolutely, because then you leave that room for human error kind of out of the way a little bit.
Yep. Absolutely.
No, absolutely. So then kind of want to, so with your new venture here, I would love to know kind of what did you do? What was it that you did really, you did poorly when you first started? What if you could go back, to when you first started this new venture, what exactly would you tell yourself?
Two things. One, and I know this is a common thing for most entrepreneurs, whatever you think something's going to cost, it's always double, if not more. Honestly, it's, I was unfortunate in my situation where I thought I can push through a pandemic and build this 15,000 square foot thing out and have equipment coming from all around the country, subs from all over the state, bringing people in from different states. We built a place when copper was at its highest point, where lumber was at its hardest point, where glass was. So I would say plan, execute. For me, when I went into the whiskey part of it, we started to do, trials.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was working with a friend's distillery in the Midwest, and I came in with what I thought was good recipes based on what I knew from everywhere else. And the distiller kept telling me, I'm going to be wrong. It's not going to taste good. I ended up having to dump somewhere near 53-gallon barrels of bourbon after only about 5 months because they were trash. I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I had the recipes. I thought I had it right, and I was not taking enough advice. And I dumped so much whiskey down the drain
Yeah, a couple
because I did
$1,000 down the drain.
not understand what it was supposed to taste like when it first comes off a still. I know what it tastes like at year 4,
Yeah.
but not knowing how it's supposed to taste when it comes off a still, because then it goes into a barrel for countless years, you need to be aware. And I wasn't. I was a little cocky about it. I thought, how hard can this be? I was in that camp where I was like, this can't be that difficult.
That's
It's like making a steak. You may make a steak one way, but I think I have a better way. I was dead wrong.
And that is the best part about being in the entrepreneur space and being your, because I do merchant services and credit card processing. So I am I'm my own boss, and this will be the last job I ever have and the only job I'll ever, since I've graduated, be my last job, because I want to be my own boss one day, and residual income is awesome thing. It's kind of like when you're an entrepreneur, once you got a real running business, it is a residual income essentially. But that is definitely something that people relate to very, very closely, I feel, because since I've been in my little bit of space, I took a little time to start listening to people. Especially I'm hard-headed.
Yep.
I'm hard-headed and I'm competitive in nature, so I'm like, they're trying to do better than me, but really they're trying to help you be better, because people are trying to help people, at the end of the day.
I would say something that I've actually done my whole life, which I wish more people would do: never be the smartest one in the room.
1,000,000%.
It's always better to surround yourself by smarter people and always be willing to adapt and change. Being in a small business, being an entrepreneur, the ability to pivot is the most important thing people can learn. Because if you get stuck and you think it's the only way, or the path you took was just like everybody else and why it's not working for you, you have to be able to pivot. Because the big guys don't pivot. The little ones who do stay alive and crush.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. And then, all right, so what did you do well when you started this? What was your number one aspect besides operations? I know you were a great operator, but what was your
I would
best
say
feature?
details.
Okay.
Details. So when we're even thinking about our glass bottle, so I had a bunch of ideas of the bottle shape, size, everything that we wanted about the bottle. I had just an empty bottle of it, created a label like on a piece of paper and taped it to this bottle.
Mm-hmm.
I went around to every possible bar in town and asked if I can just quickly put it on their back bar. And what I was trying to figure out is, most bars have poorly lit back bars. Most liquor stores have bad placement for spirits. A lot of things you don't have control over. So when I was thinking even down to how the label was made, what material it was used, how words were written on the bottle, the idea was that somebody sitting at a bar can look up and not be mistaken about what's sitting up there with our name on it. The label's made from canvas, so it goes directly back to the artistic expression. The interior of the label has artwork that we commissioned after we sampled the product to an artist. All those little fine details, even the trim on the bottle matches the trim on our walls in the building. So what I thought about was, I can build a really cool environment for people to enjoy. But once I start traveling it across the country and eventually the world, how can our entire design, our entire purpose be mimicked out in the real world? And when you've only got a bottle to tell that story, you have to be able to tell it well. So every intricate detail, which some would say I wasted time on, but I would say the opposite. The ideas, the details of each one of those things and how they play back to the brand.
Yeah.
And then the conceptualization of it throughout. So again, we have got an art gallery in our building. It's dedicated only to local artists. We take no money from them on a commission. They can sell their art. We take none of it. We're building real relationships with people in the community. And it's not just a financial transaction. So that's a huge deal. So I would say all details, being a details person, down to like the color of a doorknob, those things I felt that we did very, very well, and we will not need to renovate anytime soon.
Absolutely. I can relate to that a ton, because I'm a freak about my house, how it is, and how everything looks. It's got to be in unison. I completely agree with that, because that first image is everything. We're human, and as humans, we all read a book by its cover at first. It's human nature. The most perfect person in the world can say they don't, but I guarantee they think something in their mind, some little thought comes up to them. They might not say it out loud or say it to somebody, but it's a thought. And then that
you can't walk into our building and not be like, oh, I get it.
No,
there's no, we don't get people like that. If you've never heard of us and you're trying to understand it's a different story, but you step foot into our building, every aspect of it, you're like, I totally get it. Oh, he did that too.
Yeah.
All of those pieces matter.
And then that's going to be awesome whenever I see the bottle, and that even makes it even later, once you are worldwide, nationwide, that that bottle already being done with that intricate detail. You don't have to go back and rebrand it to make it, better than that competitor, because it's already a better look, a better model. That is awesome. That is truly like something that that shows that you care, that you're not just there for money. You're not here for a season. You're here for a reason. You know what I mean? A different type of thing for sure. And that is awesome, man. And and then the last thing I got for you is kind of, do you know where the term "burn the ship" came from?
I do not.
All right, so Spanish or a Central American conquistador, Hernan Cortez, he landed in Central America back in Christopher Columbus times. But he landed over there and he disassembled. He made his whole army, it's a fleet of ships. I don't know how many it was back then, 10 to 20, maybe tops. But they disassembled all their ships and took all their stuff off and put it on the beach. And he made them burn it. And he said, we're going to make it work here, or we're going to die trying. And that's kind of why we call it burn the ship, is because that's the same thing in entrepreneur space. It's because just like you just went off, you sold a business, and now you're off, just went off the ledge at the worst time possible too, and you're over here doing great right now. You got a smile on your face, got a good backdrop behind you with some good stuff going on. But no, that's definitely how'd it feel to. So and that's the last question: is how'd it feel to burn the ship?
Every day I get reminded by my wife, because as an entrepreneur, it's hard to step back and see what you've actually been able to accomplish. Mental health is a pretty big deal for everybody, but oftentimes something that I do tell people is, if your mental health is not in check, don't keep going.
1,000%.
If you can balance those two things, then you're good to go. And so my wife does almost daily remind me when I wake up. She says, just be grateful for what we've done so far, because I only see what's next. What's next? Let's keep going bigger, 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 bigger. It is sometimes that, because I show up at the distillery 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm still the landscaper. I still clean. I mean, I'm doing everything all the time.
1,000%.
But I walk through those halls at 7 o'clock in the morning, especially on a cold morning like this. It's dark. Nobody's in there. I do soak it in. And I do appreciate it. So just stepping back and appreciating what you've been able to accomplish doesn't mean you change your drive or get complacent, but you have to sometimes be able to bask in the fact that you got something done, or you're still headed towards something.
Absolutely, because that satisfaction that you get from that yes, in sales, or that big sell on an event that gets you somewhere, that big order of bourbon that comes through, or that rye whiskey, or that vodka. That's what keeps you going. That's that fuel to that fire that keeps you smiling and keeps that strive going. Because you get even hotter right after those. After those yeses, it keeps you going. And that's
the roller coaster of an entrepreneur is a wild ride. You got to appreciate the lows, and you got to figure out those highs too. They're all so important.
1,000%, Seth. And you want to tell the people where to find you?
Distillery of Modern Art is located in downtown Chamblee at 2197 Irvindale Drive, right behind the post office. We are hard to miss.
All right, guys, and that is it. Burn the ship. But no, I just had to cut it there.
Thank you very much.
No, we can have a little conversation now. But no, all I got to ask is, we'll cut this part out. But all I got to ask of you is, whenever this comes out, I'm going to get it edited. It'll probably be out in about 2 weeks, just because we do episode like 2 or 3 a day. So we're on you'll probably be about episode 340, 330, something like that. We started it over COVID.
Awesome.
But just like you said, COVID was hard. It was hard on us too, because we're in-person sales, so it's super tough for us. We'd like to be face-to-face. So we started this.
Absolutely.
But if you share it, share it. I'll send you the link to it whenever it comes out. Just like it, share it, put it wherever you want. I'll send you a file of it so you can put it on your anywhere you want to put it, so that people can see your story and kind of see the man behind the curtain of the show that you're running currently. And then the last thing I got to ask is kind of, what's your payment space looking like? Because I'm a payments company, and we're a wholesaler, so I kind of get customizable rates, and I'd love to give you a good service if that's if that's something that you'd be interested in, seeing if we could save you some money.
The currently only processing we do is through our POS with a very small company called Arrived, and it's built in. They have built-in processing.
Okay.
I don't actually know who it's through. I can find out though.
Yeah,
definitely. To hear something
definitely, because at the end of the day, do you guys take ACH, check payments like that or anything?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, we do ACH, and we don't do most people take 1%. We do 40 cents per transaction instead of 1%, and it's just $25 a month to have an account, and then it's 40 cents per transaction on that, and then for POS system, it kind of I just got to look at your merchant statement and kind of see what I could, how much money I could save you, because I know we could do something, have something there.
That'd be awesome, man. Yeah, we'll follow up with that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, just shoot me we could set up a meeting for it. you know, kind of when you're not busy. I'll shoot you an email and you kind of put a time on my calendar and we'll talk about it.
That'd be great, man.
Absolutely, Seth, and I'm definitely gonna come check you guys out because I'm gonna bring my whole little YouTube crew over there. We're definitely gonna come get some video in that place.
Bring them, man. Let us know when you're coming.
For sure, for sure. We got about 16,000 subs. Me, my boss, and Bailey, the one that was behind the camera on the other side. He had to leave, but he had to go to an appointment. But no, we started. My boss is 45 years old, and he wanted to do YouTube a couple years ago, so we've been doing it.
Awesome.
It's called Soup Sandwich.
Well, I definitely look forward to meeting you in person, man. Let us know, and we'll have a good time.
For sure, for sure. And check us out, Soup Sandwich on YouTube. You'll appreciate the content, especially being an old college guy. You see him at a bar guy. You'll love it because we do a lot of drinking stuff and bar tricks.
Love it, man.
But
Thank
all right,
you very
Seth.
much.
Yes, sir. You have a great rest of your day, man, and I look forward to talking to you.
Take care.